Okay. Climbing Mount Everest is an unimaginable feat for many. What inspired you to take on such a challenge? Before Everest, you attempted to summit multiple times. What kept you going despite the setbacks? And also, you can just tell us about your journey, where you started, who is Saray Khumalo, and who is she? Who is Saray Khumalo? Let's just start there on her journey.
That's actually a good start. I'm my most important job and title is a mother. I'm a mother of two boys. I worked in corporate South Africa for 25 years, and now I work for myself. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a mountaineer. I do adventure travel. I think I found me on the trails, and now I support other people to do things like Kilimanjaro, going into the Drakensberg, and also making a difference. I use my climbing to make a difference in my world. So I build libraries. I've built about 16 libraries in South Africa, in the different provinces, as part of giving back and almost creating a positive impact for the next generation of Africans. And that I'm passionate about, because after all is said and done, it's not about how we dressed, what houses we stayed in, it's what impact we left in the world that becomes important. So that's who I am. I am an African, proudly so, and I'm a passionate person who's very conscious of the fact that I don't have forever to live. So I'm very intentional, and that doesn't mean that I'm not human. I'm very resilient. I know I look at every failure as an opportunity to grow. You know, I try and find the positives, and I get up and I keep going. I guess that's why I did Everest not one but four times, because the summit in 2019 on the 16th of May was not a success in isolation of all the unsuccessful attempts. Each one of them taught me something different that I was able to use in the end. And after all is said and done, it was the right time, right? There was a lot that I needed to learn. I'm a different person because of all those attempts that didn't work out, compared to what I would have been if I rocked up there and actually summited once. And I pray that this gives the next person, the African child, that it doesn't matter where you come from Alex, from Tuba, you too deserve to step on top of the world. And it's okay that you can do it more than one time. It doesn't make you any less deserving. What is important is to keep going. And as you go, surround yourself with the right people. Because sometimes we cling on to the right things, right, the right things at the specific time. And when their sell by date is gone, we still cling on to them. And it doesn't allow us to move forward. Learning to let go in order to preserve ourselves and to create the impact that we deserve to make in this world.
So I was just saying, thank you for channeling us along your journey. Um, so I'll start with the great feats you've just conjured, or let me say, you've expressed yourself into the world, and it's just a tremendous feat. Or just I'm inspired to meet you today. So the first question I have for today is: climbing Mount Everest is an unimaginable feat for many. What inspired you to take on such a challenge? Before Everest, you attempted to summit multiple times. What kept you going despite the setbacks?
I think, why Everest? Somebody in the 50s was asked that question, why climb Everest? And they were like, because it's there. And I almost all the time, I actually had a podcast where I asked the question, why be a leader? Because it's there. Because in spite of our insecurities, we are all born to make a difference. So I love the outdoors. I think it started with hiking, which I did when I was young. Then at some point I stopped. Marriage happened, kids happened, work happened, and you forget all that. And one evening I'm sitting in the office and I got a call that I had lost my older sister. Now I'm one of 7 girls raised by a single mother who always used to tell us that the sky is the limit. Like, you never allow anyone or anything make you believe that you're less deserving of what you know you deserve or you can do, less deserving of being in a room where you know you deserve to be in. And so, in a nutshell, I was a go-getter. And I wasn't going to let anyone stop me because I knew only I can stop myself. But when my sister died, I started questioning, is it about getting that corner office? Is it about the big check, like lots of money that you earn at the end of the month, being called lady boss, being a malugazana, and, being a mother? And yet you try and figure out, but who is Sarah? The tomboy that grew up on the street with just like playing ball and just being so curious. I had lost that. And I went back to my grandfather, who was a pastor, and he used to say that if you don't live a life of service, it's a life wasted. You know, I grew up with a grandfather who was a missionary who always used to say, if you don't live a life of service, it's a life wasted. So as a young kid, I didn't understand that, but that evening in Santon, when I got that news, I started questioning myself, am I living a life of service? And the answer was no. So to cut the long story short, I left corporate. I lost a lot of shares that I had in First Strand, and I just started really trying to find me. What is my reason for being? After I'm gone and done, and Sarah is not there, no one will remember that she was a boss in 2000. And it's about the impact. And I tried to find that, and hiking gave me that. I found that when I was hiking, I was just going into myself. I was being honest with myself. I wasn't distracted. I was able to see my flaws, my shortcomings, and appreciate the strength that I have and lean into it, And so in the process, I did Kilimanjaro, and we used it to raise money for a home in Benoni called Kids Heaven. And we built an outdoor gym and the library with everything was worth about 200,000 rands. And one of the kids in the home came to me and said, do you really come from the township? I did a TED talk on that. I don't know if you've seen it. And I remember just looking at her and laughing because I thought she was like mocking me to say the Black people swim kind of joke, right? And then she says, no, people like us don't do things like this. It's the exchange students that come from the US, that come from Europe. When they come to Kids Heaven, when they leave, they're the ones that do these things. Now, I remember coming home and just reflecting on that because it was real. Because I too grew up watching Wonder Woman and Superman, and they're flying around, but no one around me flew, but they were my superheroes. So my job was just to applaud and say, yeah, but I knew I couldn't fly. They didn't talk like me. But along the way, education and travel made me realize that I too can be a superhero in my own way, in my own space. And so a sense of self-disbelief, like we are not the heroes, they are the heroes. No, I've traveled. They're just humans like we are. If they can be superheroes, we can be too. So how can I give that gift to my children, my boys, so that they never have to think that they're second-class citizens in the global village? They never have to wait for somebody to come and save me before they looked inside. And that started the journey of me saying, I want to climb the 7 highest peaks on 7 continents because I loved the hiking and Kilimanjaro, which wasn't necessarily easy, but use it to raise money for education. Use it to empower the African child to realize that they too belong on top of the world. And when I rocked up on Everest the first time in 2014, I realized that that world doesn't believe that I belong on top of the world. They were like, oh, aren't you a mother? Like, but they have more kids than I do, but they are white and rich and male. So they deserve to be there more than I do. But you've gotten to base camp, but that's enough. So my ambition, it's okay that it's lower. It can't be equivalent to their ambition. And the sense of representation became so core to everything that I did. Because right now, you don't have to think about it. That you can be an engineer, right? You know you can be an engineer. You know you can be a doctor because you've seen people like you being doctors, right? So how can I make sure that no one that looks like me when they rock up to Everest, they're not being doubted like I was. They're not being made to feel like they didn't belong. And that made me go back again and again. And the fact that every time I went, I learned something. And I came back and I built a library. I made a difference. And it kept me going. And honestly, I learned more about myself. The mountain humbled me, right? It made me realize, as an overachiever that I am, that nobody gets to the top alone. Appreciating the right partnerships. Even though everyone needs a partner, not everyone can be your partner. So be very diligent about making sure that the people in your circle are the right people for you, and you are the right person for them as well. And so that's why I went back again and again. And 66 years after the mountain was first summited in 1953, someone like me was able to step on top of the world.
I don't know why were they limiting you when you first started. I guess it goes to show that what Muhammad Gandhi first said. I think there's this quote he says when he says, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they hate you, then they admire you, then you become a legend. Um,
Absolutely. I don't know if I'm a legend, but I agree with that
you
saying. I
are,
think it's
you
all
are.
about
Goes no
being your
debate.
it's about being your own cheerleader. Don't look for validation outside. Why should they believe in you when you don't believe in you? Right? They can come along the way. They can be cheerleaders after, but you cheer yourself on in the dark when no one is seeing. Put in the work. Keep going. Even if today all you can manage is half a step, take it. Just don't stop, because
There's always
giving up is not.
opportunities. There's always
Oh,
opportunities.
absolutely,
You
absolutely.
talk a lot about leadership and empowering others. What advice would you give to young Africans looking to break barriers like you did?
I think be authentic. There's a space for Africanism, for Ubuntu, for who we are and what we come from in the world. The world has got a lot of what the rest of the world can offer, but we sometimes don't boldly bring our Africanness to the table. It's not inferior, it's our superpower. Let's use it. Don't copy the next person. You can't be them better than they can, but no one can be you better than you can. Everyone. So, one of the things I put in my book, I say, we are all uniquely extraordinary, and being ordinary is a choice. When we try and copy other people, we always remain mediocre. But when we try and be the extraordinary us that we are, the sky is not the limit. Like, we have unlimited potential. So I'm a Christian. I'm not preaching, but I'm a Christian. I believe in Jeremiah 29 verse 11. It says, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, and it's plans to prosper you, not anybody, you. So if you think about it that way, who can compete with you being you? Nobody. Own your greatness. And that is not to say you're not going to fail. It's to say you are, but get up. As long as you are breathing, your summit awaits. As long as, even if there are clouds, you know that the sun is behind those clouds. Keep going.
I think I've also read like a book that truly made sense to me when people talk about finding your own space. There's this word called genius. When you're talking
Yeah.
about epistemology, it's a term that says where do words like literally come from. So genius, it also goes back into saying the genie in us. So it's finding your ability because even twins, basically, they're different. If they're twins, they have different genes, different life experiences. Because if you read also if you study genes or if you're a geneticist or something, you understand that we're all different. So you should express yourself as you are.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so how do
Absolutely.
you, yes, so how do you handle fear in moments of uncertainty, whether on a mountain or in life?
Wow, I have, I love telling stories. So I have lots of examples. One of the most fearful moment on the mountain for me, there were many, but the one that I want to specifically hone in on is 2015. I'm on the mountain between Camp 1 and Camp 2. We are walking on a glacier. So now this is the river that's frozen. The coldest I measured on Everest was minus 42. And now we're walking on this river. It's a river at the bottom, there must be water going, but it's glacier. when suddenly my Sherpa and I feel the glacier shaking, like really shaking us like leaves. And he turns around, hooks his carabiner onto mine. So we are hooked together and he says, Sarah, we are jumping. So the idea, you know how ice can crack like this? It opens a crevasse, like at a mass scale, like two big highways, you're walking, and if it opens, it just goggles you. And so he says to me, Sarah, we are jumping. So the idea is if it opens beneath us, we needed to jump onto the same side because remember, we are attached together. Because if we jumped on opposite, one of us will pull the other one in. There was no time for fear. I was just confused because I did not understand how we moved from we are walking to now there's nothing to hold on to, right? And he says we are jumping, and I'm watching him closely. Felt like 5 minutes, but it was just about 2 minutes, and it stops. And as soon as he stops, he takes off. He says, "Okay, we are all right." But we both confused because we don't know. At the time, we didn't know that it was an earthquake of 8.3 magnitude. That's huge if you come from an earthquake country. Now we are on a glacier surrounded by mountains. Those mountains were shaken by the earthquake. They released rocks, snow. They all started avalanching towards us. Now we heard it before we saw the stones, rocks, ice all coming towards us. And they teach you how to arrest yourself. But in that moment, we're just like, he started praying. Oh mani pemeum. This is like a Tibetan prayer. It's a chant that I learned. And I remember just looking at him. I'm like, dude, no, the Tibetan God of yours is not coming to save me. I'm on my own. It just brought me back. When I came home, I always come back and reflect. It's about how we show up as leaders. It's how did we show up when COVID happened? It was unknown. We didn't know, are we going to survive? Is it about me? Is it about my family? Is it my business? It's about prioritizing. Like, how did you show up? How do you show up when the world is shaking around you? When he said we are jumping, I was following him. And if we're going to die, we're going to die both. But I knew we're working together. But when he started praying to a God that I didn't understand, I mean, I was like, hey, Jesus, what's the plan? Because that's what I know. I'm a Christian, right? So I feel that fear is something that we need to experience, accept, but work around in order to move forward. I don't necessarily climb with people that claim to be fearless because they don't take calculated risks. It's about showboating. There's no time for that. Everest is flipping dangerous. So if you are fearless, you are adding the dangers with the danger. It's like somebody that goes onto the highway and they say they are fearless, so they're just going to drive at 260. They are flipping dangers to themselves and other people on the road. Just because the highway kills people doesn't mean you and I are not going to buy cars. We want to buy cars, but we're going to be cautious and understand the risk and manage the risk within us. We don't stop driving. We don't stop living because we're going to die. We're going to die anyway. So let's live.
I mean, I can't imagine what you went through, but like since you were actually talking, because like when I just think of many books. There's this one that just comes into my mind called One Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl went into torturous concentration camps, atrocious events that were happening to him. But for many years, he actually believed that he had purpose in life. So that was actually driving him towards that destination, whatever it is. He knew that he had a wife out there. If he's gonna be free one day, if he's gonna be free, then that's what's driving him. That's what kept him alive. Let me put it like that. Um,
Absolutely. I want to add to that. I think it's Simon Sinek talks about start with your why. I think understanding why you're on the mountain was important for me to go back. If I didn't understand, if what you're doing is not important and you don't have clarity in terms of why you're doing it, it's easy to give up. If you have clarity of your why, you have a sense of agency, you make a plan, like we always say, you make a plan and you move forward.
You recently released your book, My Journey to the Top. Can you tell us what inspired you to write it and what readers can expect from it?
Oh, wow. Let me actually get a copy. I didn't know you were going to ask me that.
Sure.
Moment. So, my journey to the top of the world and the lessons I learned along the way. Let me just repeat that. So, it's my journey to the top of the world and the lessons I learned along the way. It's really a memoir. I felt very strongly when I started climbing. My website said I'm just an ordinary African woman trying to reach extraordinary heights. Very apologetic. And along the way, I realized that I'm giving permission to the world to assume that I belong at base camp. I don't belong to the top of the world. And I also realized that I am no different. My ambitions do not have to be negated, do not have to be watered down because I'm an African, because I'm female, because of where I started from. My determination and the work that I put in is what will set me apart from where I am today to where I deserve to be. And so I wanted to share to everyone to say there are no special superheroes. There are no people that they are born special and we are not. We are all uniquely extraordinary, born to make history. Lean into yourself, be authentic. And some of then I've got lessons that I learned along the way. How not to give up. And not to give up is not about going back and doing the same thing exactly the same. It's about learning from that failure. It's about failing forward, learning from it, and moving forward. It's also about giving back, about when you get there, remember to be thankful. Reach down and pull someone else up with you. It's about Ubuntu that we don't talk about enough. It's also about being a VIP. You have an opportunity to speak to me. I don't think, I'm amazing or whatever, but try and get as much from me because not everybody is going to have access to me. If I had an opportunity to speak to Mandela, oh boy, what would I have learned from the old man that would make a difference to me that I can be able to share with the next generation? So, what am I saying? I'm saying every time you find yourself at the table, be a VIP. I want to end with the last paragraph of my book. It says, good luck. Every one of us has his or her own personal mountain to climb. It might not be Everest and it might not be a physical mountain. Yours might be in the boardroom, on your bicycle, in your family, at school, or even in the health of your own body. The reality is there's always something that we need to achieve, something big and difficult and meaningful. Whatever it is, continue to believe in your limitless potential because the summit is possible if you keep stepping. I believe that we are all extraordinary and have the capacity to do extraordinary things in our lifetime. Whatever your personal Everest, I wish you strength, purpose, kind weather, and some luck, but more importantly, God's blessings. And when you get there, remember to be thankful, reach down and pull someone else up with you. Sarah.
Beautiful. Two more last questions for conclusion. Um, Beyond Everest, you continue to impact communities through education and leadership. What's next for you? That's the first question I have. And the last one would be if you could leave our audience with one powerful lesson from your journey, what would it be?
What is the last question? If I could leave?
One powerful lesson from your journey. Continue to impact communities through education and leadership. What's next for you? What are the projects?
Yes.
Are you
All
writing
right.
more
Okay.
books? Are you going to start a podcast? What's happening?
Yeah. So I do have a podcast, although I haven't recorded in a while. But so in the next 5 weeks, I'm going to finish the Explorers Grand Slam. So in the next 5 weeks, I'm leaving for the North Pole. I'm going to do what is called Explorers Grand Slam. So it's climbing the seven highest peaks on the seven continents around the world, which I've done. Skiing to the South Pole, I've done. I'm remaining with skiing to the North Pole. And there are only 73 people in the world that have done that. So I'm hoping to join that club of people, but I'm using it again to raise money for education. My aim is initially I was like, I want to build libraries in every province in the country. My aim now is to build at least one library in every country on the continent. So I'm excited about that. How I'm going to do that, heck, I don't know, but I know we're going to make it happen, right? And I think that I'm excited about. And that's what I'm doing through Summits with a Purpose. I say, why just climb and take a selfie when you can climb and make a difference? So what is it that you're doing? Are you a comrades runner? How can you run because you love it, but actually change the world for one more person back at home? I am writing a follow-up book. I'm also writing children's series of books just to talk about the 7 summits for an African child and the journey. I'm hoping that the kids between ages of 4 and 8 can pick up something from that. What lesson can I leave the world? I think, man, never play small. I think Marianne Williamson says it so brilliantly. I think even Mandela touched on it. He says, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be beautiful, amazing, and powerful? But the question is, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. And playing small does not save the world. Let's go out there. Let's play big because we are born for greatness.